So we're taking a look at Eye of the Temple. It's a Tomb Raider / Indiana Jones-esque kind of adventure game. It's a room scale game, which is why I'm not in my green screen room, because it's not big enough to accommodate for this game. It needs at least 2 meters by 2 meters. So I'm in another room of my house, just so I can show off this game to you. It's coming out very soon. I'll flash the details of this game up on screen right now. In this video, I'll give a quick review and I'll show you some gameplay too. So let's get into it. So the plan was to make a gameplay video with commentary, although my microphone decided to cark it just at the moment I decided to record the video. So I thought instead I might just give a review while I show you some of the gameplay. So Eye of the Temple is a VR puzzle game. It's a very unique game in that it's a room scale experience, and it works by turning the player around within the play space, so you can walk the entire length of the game without stopping or leaving the boundaries of your guardian. So there's no thumbstick movement, there's no teleportation, you just use your legs to walk through the entire game. Eye of the Temple also uses these floating ledges to achieve this too. So it's quite clever in that way, and it follows in the footsteps of games like Tea of God and Traversal, which you can find on App Lab. So that's honestly one of the most remarkable features of Eye of the Temple, and that's the gameplay mechanics. If you've never tried room scale VR, it will really blow you away. And Eye of the Temple VR does it really well. It's quite clever how it uses moving blocks, rolling blocks, and other things to make this immersive room scale experience. It really takes the immersion of VR to the next level. And the puzzles in Eye of the Temple are also quite well designed. They're challenging but not too frustrating. You do have to think creatively, and using your body to dodge traps and solve puzzles also adds an extra layer to the gameplay. Now, having said that, while the puzzles are pretty well designed, they can become repetitive over time. And that also includes the mechanics of the moving ledges. Sometimes it takes a bit of patience to have to wait for ledges to come to you, to then step on one, and then step on the next one. It can get a bit repetitive at times. So a bit more variety in that department could have kept the game feeling fresher throughout. The game will last for about 3 or 4 hours, so it's not the longest game, but certainly not the shortest, particularly given the price. And like I said, the best thing about this game that I love are the gameplay mechanics. And it uses these mechanics in lots of clever ways. For example, these rolling blocks, so you have to move your feet backwards to counteract the forward motion and make sure you don't fall off. Then there's these traps, like these falling blocks, that you have to duck or dodge. So the game is really quite a physical experience, and you'll have to use your whole body if you want to make it out of the temple alive. You'll also be using your hands too. In one hand you have your Indiana Jones style whip, which is kind of bordering on copyright infringement, but is used to collect crystals, move levers, and destroy enemies. Then in the other hand is a torch that, once lit, can be used to solve puzzles and light darkened areas. So you can really tell a lot of thought has gone behind all these different mechanics, and it just works. Everything comes together really well to give you this VR adventure puzzle experience that makes you feel just a little bit like Indiana Jones or Lara Croft. Now, that being said, it can be a bit disorientating, and at times you might even lose your balance. And I did get a bit wobbly a couple of times when I stepped on ledges that my eyes said were moving but weren't actually moving, and I think it kind of confused my brain and made me feel like I was going to topple over. Now, that didn't really happen a lot for me, mainly during the beginning as I was getting used to the mechanics. But it might be nice if they would have included, say, a teleportation mode or an ability to move using the thumbstick for players who might find this kind of movement disorientating. And I can see that happening. I can see some players not gelling with this kind of natural locomotion in VR. So to make it more accessible to those Quest users, it would have been nice to have seen different movement options as opposed to just having this room scale natural locomotion method. Although if you did use teleportation or a thumbstick, that would, for me, take a lot out of what makes this game so good. And that is the fact that you can move around the entire game using just your legs. I think that's the main selling point, at least in my opinion. That is what would make me want to buy this game. Now, the sounds are fine, the graphics are generally pretty good. They can feel a bit simplistic here or there, lack certain details, but otherwise the game is generally quite well polished. And being surrounded in this atmospheric ancient temple is really quite immersive and cool. So to sum up, Eye of the Temple VR is a unique and enjoyable puzzle adventure. The biggest selling point is obviously the gameplay mechanics, which take advantage of the room scale locomotion that makes the game very immersive, and these mechanics work really well. It will last about 3 or 4 hours, and I think it's appropriately priced at about $20 US. That being said, it can be a challenge for players who might have limited movement because there's no alternative option to moving around the temple. It also can be a challenge for those who might be a bit disorientated when it comes to this kind of locomotion system. And for me, the biggest drawback was the repetition that kind of set in with some of the puzzles, and also with the ledge movement system, which got a bit repetitive after a while. Other than that, it's a game I can definitely recommend. I think Room Scale VR is a great experience, and Either Temple VR does it fantastically well. So definitely one to try. Definitely one of the most unique VR games out there, and it's well designed puzzles and great atmosphere. It makes it a game that I can recommend. So that's it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have found it useful, you can support the channel simply by liking the video and subscribing. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one.
Long has it been since anyone has lit this shrine, but you have heard my call.